If you work with lists of data in Excel, however large, you can achieve some improvements in handling that data and in formatting that data if you convert the data into a table. This particular list here is about 100 rows deep. It's about 30 columns wide or so. Not exactly easy to read. It's scientific data, but as we move left and right, it's a bit tricky without moving our fingers across the screen maybe, or if it's on paper, the same idea. If we convert this into a table, and we can do that in one of 4 ways, we can initially see some visual changes. Now, before doing that, make sure that we don't have any empty rows in this list or any empty columns, although we might have empty cells, that's just fine. We begin the process by either pressing Control-T, think of T for table, Control-L, think of list. Possibly from the Home tab, you'll see a choice, Format as Table. The description, quickly convert a range of cells to a table with its own style. Doesn't exactly give us much rationale there. Also, on the Insert tab, a longer description, third icon from the left, Table. Create a table to organize and analyze related data. Tables make it easy to sort, filter, and format data within a sheet. Let's do it. Click this. Excel nearly always figures out the extent of your data as it does here. We click OK, and the obvious initial difference is formatting. This appearance is referred to as banded rows. Recognize also we've got a contextual design tab now visible. Off to the right, table styles. 61 different ways to make this table appear more readable, less readable, or more to your liking. We'll just pick one of these and maybe go with it for a while. There we go. Now, as I start to scroll, keep an eye on those column letters. What happened to them? They're gone. Is it important which column letter we're in right here? It's more important probably to recognize the title, the heading, its description. This is a requisition number, gram equivalent, and so on. We see these automatically in a table just by scrolling up and down. Recognize there are filter arrows here. If you're familiar with that concept, you know why you would want to use them. And it certainly is handy in lists like these to be able to do filtering. If you don't use filtering or if you think it's not necessary in the list, you can, as you wish, check or uncheck the filter button here. I'll check it. It's no longer present. You can easily bring it back. If you want to sort this data, you don't have to worry about highlighting it all. Just click within the data itself. Also on the Design tab, you can give special prominence to the first column. Usually all this does is make it bold. In some cases, it changes the cell background. And similarly with the last column as well, too. Another aspect of this that's advantageous is if we jump to the bottom here, I'll press Control down arrow. If we were to add a new record, as soon as we type information in the row immediately below the table, it automatically becomes part of the table. So I'm not going to do much typing here, just put in a few numbers. And as I press Tab or Enter, recognize how the banded row kicks in, and this row is now part of the table, all the way over to the last column on the right. I'm going to undo that since I don't really need the data there. But let's go to the upper left and then off to the right. What if we add data to the right? Same kind of thing happens if we, in the adjacent column to the right of the table, I'm going to type in the word index, and we see how column AG is now part of the table. I'm going to put in a formula here, and this will surprise you a little bit in 2 ways. It's a simple little formula that simply is going to double the quantity, equal this cell. Now, as I click on it, look what happens. Suddenly the word quantity appears there. In other words, it's picked up the column heading and uses this in the formula. That might throw you a little bit, but it works. *2. And watch what happens when I press Enter. It fills in the entire column. Now, you might find it a little bit awkward to work with formulas here. I'm going to double click this. If you do, what you might consider doing, and I'll simply rewrite the formula here, equal, and I'll type AF2 times 2, and then press Enter. And then all of our formulas refer to the cell address. But you might want to experiment with that concept. But the important idea here is that as you add information to the right here, to the adjacent column just to the right of the table, it automatically will become part of the table. Now, one other thing we might do here is, back on the Design tab, we certainly can consider the idea that maybe we don't like this. Maybe we're not sure whether we want this table concept. So on the Design tab, you do have the option of converting this to a range. If you do, it will, however, retain the colors, which isn't horrible or anything like that, but if we confirm this, do we want to convert the table to a normal range? If we click yes, this is no longer a table, but we'll have to on our own, perhaps clicking in the upper left-hand corner, remove the colors if we wish. I'm going to reverse stream and just keep it as a table, let's say. There certainly are some advantages. One other one here from the Design tab, if you add a total row, it puts a total row in the bottom. The concern here might be, what is it we want to do with the totals? Well, in some of these columns, like this one here, we might want to total those by choosing sum, but maybe when we want to do average. And so one by one in these different columns where it's appropriate, we can put in different kinds of totals. The question that comes up, though, is what if we want to add a new record? What do? Temporarily disable the total row. We'll put in our new record here. Now, I'm not going to do much typing. I'll just put in one entry here. Right here, I'll put in 200. And we're done, let's say. And what do I do now? Back to the Design tab, bring back the total row. It will appear below the new record, and it will have updated the total, if appropriate, as it was in this case. There's one other aspect to using tables, too, that has merit when we talk about charts. And there's some data off to the right here. If we create a chart from this data quickly with Alt F1, you can see pretty quickly what's going on here. Now, what happens if we want to add our April data? I'm going to right drag the lower right corner of that cell, and from the pop-up menu, choose months. There's our April data. Anything happen in the chart? Not at all. Put in the number 150. What happens in the chart? Nothing. Now, a quick fix is click the chart and then extend the highlighted area downward here. But suppose we do our updating once a week, or maybe once a day. And I've even seen situations where a bunch of hours are updated a few times a day, that sort of thing. So let's get rid of this chart and get rid of this data, in a sense, start over. Let's create a chart this time with this data being a table. So we'll make it a table. Then maybe this time we'll use it from the Home tab, Format as Table. Pick one of our options first. Here we pick the format first. Pick a format and click OK. Now it's a table. We'll press Alt F1 again. Same chart as we saw before, but this time as I extend March 2014 downward using the right mouse button, drag down, fill months. There's April, and we see space being made for April in the chart. We'll put in our 150 right here, and the chart reacts. And furthermore, what if we were to add another category out here? Suppose we put in the word profits. Now this is adjacent to the table on the right side. And as I put in profits, watch what happens when I press enter. The columns got narrower, so it's making room for a profit column here. So maybe here we had a small profit of 10, and here it jumps up a bit to 40. And one by one, we can see what's happening in the chart as we put in the new numbers here, right here, and so on. And then once again, if we were to add May, just like we did add April, same idea, you can see what's happening here. So for dynamic charts, charts that grow and change with the data, the source data, if it's a table, accommodates that idea beautifully. So that's another use for tables. Again, although primarily we view tables because of the visual features, they also have important data handling capabilities as well.